Sometimes when you scroll, you end up on the other side of the information. Lately, I keep coming across more right wing content. Right? I'm not talking about those really famous figures. I'm talking about, the crowd of rising right wing content creators. Right? Guess the keyword they use in these videos and, when describing left or anyone who's not right wing. Virtue signaling, self awareness, contemplation, fact checking, evidence based, regurgitating talking points, lack of empathy, projection, critical thinking, delusional, lack of basic understanding. What aboutism? Cognitive dissonance, nuance, and rhetoric, and so on, right? These are the words they use. I'll be honest, sometimes if you don't listen to the whole thing attentively, right, you would think this person is criticizing the right instead, right? But they are actually defending it, with a lot of effort. Now, I feel that in recent years, the right has picked up a lot of this type of language to come across as intelligent and coherent, right? This is the strategy for modern right-wing rhetoric, right? Particularly in this online intellectual forms. By using the left's own vocabulary when criticizing them, right, then perform this preemptive strike. Right? To me, this is like a linguistic tactic without substance. And essentially, they are shifting the meaning of these concepts and purposely trying to create confusion. When they say, lack of critical thinking, they mean you believe the mainstream media instead of our alternative source, right? Then they talk about projection. Well, by accusing your opponent of the very thing you're often accused of, you deflect criticism and create confusion, right? This is a common psychological tactic, right? So I looked this up specifically. Academics and linguists refer to this as rhetorical co-optation or semantic shifting, right? The process of adopting the language of your opponent to either neutralize its power or claim it as your own. So if you study history, we often say that controlling the language is to control the common sense of a society. So that philosophical term, cultural hegemony, right? It's making one group's view of the world seem like this natural common sense, universal order of things. Well, I do feel a lot of people act like their views are basic common sense, right? You get a lot of people saying, it's just about the illegals. Like it's understood that there's nothing to talk about beyond that, right? Well, the thing is, if you get someone who hasn't been paying attention to what's happening and doesn't know how to think for themselves, then when they listen to both sides, right, they might think, okay, they're using the same language. They're doing the same things, talking about the same things in the same ways. Well, this is very problematic and frustrating, to keep creating this false equivalency. Now, by stealing the vocabulary of reason, uninformed person listening in can no longer tell the difference between the person trying to analyze reality and the person trying to subvert it.